Welcome to Abu Dhabi Talks. I'd like to introduce my lovely co-hosts, Sana Diab and Ro.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. So here in Abu Dhabi, there is this organization called Darkness into Light, and they are a team of volunteers raising awareness for mental health. And they have helped a lot of people over the years and are still helping a lot of people. So our guest for tonight is Laura Brennan, and she's the Director of Therapeutic Services in Darkness into Light. So hi, Laura.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having
Thanks for
me.
joining us. Thank you for joining us. So
My
It's
pleasure.
great to see you.
yeah,
You too, like three lovely ladies, powerful women in the community. Amazing. It's just such a pleasure to share space with you all. Thank you for having me.
Oh, hey, we're watching all
with
your
us.
activities as well on Darkness into Light. You've got some great
Yep.
initiatives going on, and it pops
Yeah.
up on my news feed. So it's wonderful work. I know how devoted you are, and Maria and everyone in your team. So it's great. I think you're giving a lot of support to people like this who are
Yeah.
online and we're locked up at home. So well
Yeah.
done, you guys. And it's
Thank
a
you.
massive passion for all of you. Can you give us a little bit about your backgrounds of how long you've been in Abu Dhabi and how you came into Darkness into Light?
When people ask me about, oh Laura, tell me something about you or your background, I tend to say things like, I like cake, helping people, and Spider-Man, but people aren't interested in that at all. They're much more interested to hear that I'm 38. I'm a trained counseling psychologist, but I've evolved to a spiritual psychologist as I have grown in understanding of different religions and ancient wisdoms and holy books and everything else. I'm also a student shaman with the Honey Queen tribe in the Amazon, so I go to the Amazon to learn from my teachers there. At the age of 12 was when I first felt that I had depression, and for 20 years I suffered with chronic depression, and at 27 that developed into cervical cancer. And it was during that time how I learned to self-cure my depression with cancer to where I am now at 38, fully recovered and living my best life. So people tend to resonate more with that type of answer, but that's
I
just
didn't
my
know
life.
that. I'm amazed. I didn't know about the illness.
Bravo.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Do you feel that, many of us involved in the community here, we know that this problem has always been around, sort of loneliness and the struggles. How do you feel from your experience? Has that changed now with the whole COVID situation?
It's amplified, that there was a massive virus globally before COVID-19, and it was depression and sadness and all of those things. And that didn't change just because COVID-19 came. Instead, it would have amplified those symptoms, and specifically loneliness for sure. People who are living by themselves, people who are living with their families in close proximity and they don't have the usual structure, people who live with domestic abusers, sexual abusers. People live in so many different unique home situations that they've all had the same experience but have been affected in a different way. And for sure, loneliness has been a massive factor. But also, on the flip side, it's been an incredible time for people to self-reflect. And I bet all of you have learned so much about yourselves. You've reconnected to parts of yourself that you thought you'd lost or that you had forgotten about for a while. So there's been a lot of powerful transformation as well as some of the darker stuff for sure.
Do you feel there's a difference between men and women coming forward? Because I know when I deal with sort of my community, I find women find it easier talking about this subject. Men are not so. Is that something you find as well? Or has that changed in COVID?
Yeah, no, Darkness into Light is just such a unique initiative. We find that it's 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah. And
that's
especially
good
at
news.
it is, but especially at our events, our live events, the psychotherapeutic events, psychotherapeutic entertainment events that we host, there's always it's a 50-50 divide. And what was beautiful last February, we did a tea and talk, which is one of our signature monthly events, and it was on heartbreak. And the majority of people that were there were men, and we had about 80 people fit in. And it's men from different backgrounds, business, fathers, men from the Bedouin community, all different ages. And they just kind of come in and they just sit down and they're just there. And again, it just shows that so many men want to reach out and ask for help, and they will do that if they're provided a safe space where they can move in their own pace with somebody they trust.
You know, if I know people who are struggling during these times, and they find it hard to reach out, like, do you have any advice? How can we help them out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, it's a sign of you being such a good friend. And there's a lot of good friends in Abu Dhabi who are really worried about people they care about. And the thing is, the bottom line is, as a friend, there's only two things you can do: genuinely care and listen. If someone is struggling, you cannot pull them out of it. That's their responsibility. But what you can do is you can be there to genuinely care and listen. And of course, then there's extensions of that. You know, maybe you can give them the lend of money, or take them to their counsellor, or, you know, come around with 2 pizzas and 4 bottles of wine, or whatever it might be in that particular moment. And it's just holding space for them and encouraging them without judgment.
Like, getting from that moment that we try to help them up until the moment that, you know, we could recommend them to Darkness into Light. What are the what are the things that we could say to our friends, you know, not to make things worse, for them to actually seek help? Yeah,
well, the first thing there is, if you're coming from a heart-centered place where you genuinely care about your friend, you're not going to make things worse, because you're going to be speaking to your friend kindly. You know, you might have to challenge and be firm, but you're going to be kind. And it's questions like, are you okay? You don't seem okay to me. What have you identified that you need in this moment? Let's work together to get you there. For your own self-care, sometimes you have to step back. And that is that's a personal decision that any friend would have to make if they found in that situation. We're caught in this loop where we're repeating the same conversation, and it's all, you know, judgment, anger, blame, and punishment. And once we're in that anger kind of loop, we just tend to blame, you know, through complaining and kind of loss of hope, and continuing to make those really bad decisions, or the self-sabotaging behaviors that people often make. And you know, it also comes to a point where you're like, look, I can't do this anymore. I've been there for you. I've given you so much, and I respect you and I love you, but I don't think I'm helping you get to where you want to be. Here's Darkness into Light. Here's the 2 national mental health helpline numbers that have come into existence. Here, and they're here for you to reach out to. And if you ever want to reach out to them and support, then come back to me, because I'll be here waiting for you. But unless you're going to make a decision to make change in your life, I feel I can't go any further with you. You know, I think that's something.
What do you offer if they then come to you? What services do you offer them?
Yeah, so we offer a range of services. The first one really is a first contact, like a human face. The majority of our service users will access us through our social media on Instagram and Facebook, and they'll just hit us up with a message, and they may say something like, I'm having trouble in my marriage, or my kid isn't listening to me, or I don't know where to get my medication if people are on medication, or I'm feeling suicidal, or whatever it might be. And then we will tell them that we can instantly access them to one of our mental health professionals for free. And then that will progress into a Zoom call with a mental health professional and that person, where that person can share what they're going through in a safe space. And then our mental health professional has a list of supports here from loads of different models and methodologies, and go through that to help that person who's vulnerable find someone who can take them to the next level. We have a partnership with SKMC where we provide well-being and support groups that are frontline professionals. The most important thing is that if someone has the courage to reach out, that's a massive step, because usually it's not until I'm really desperate will I finally reach out to somebody. And then it's just connecting with us and listening and identifying what the needs of that person are in that moment, and then working collaboratively to find a solution. That's especially with depression, you know, there's a stereotype, well, there's a one profile of depression, it's very explicit, you know, people are just externally a mess and they talk about being a mess, and they're very easy to identify. It's the ones who are opposite to that, you know, who always look great, or high flyers, or popular, or this or that, and they will only let you know they're unwell if they decide that they want to tell you.
Is one worse than the other though, do you think? In this case, do you think the one who is in a mess is reached a further stage? Or because sometimes, you know, you hear stories and you read them of people who seemingly they seem put together, and then you hear they've committed suicide, and you think, what? So I'm just wondering whether that outwardly sort of how they appear, their appearance, is that indicative? Like, is one less than the other or not? Because, you know, I'm from the layman's perspective. I wouldn't know. I would assume that this person who's a mess is really at the end of their tether. I mean, from your experience, what do you think?
It's really difficult. And this is where real, authentic, genuine conversations come into place, where you are constantly asking your friend, are you okay? Or, you know, something that I really like to share with my friends is that look at the nature of your conversations. Are you always talking about what you did at the weekend and Netflix and all of these things, which is fine, but when do you have that deep and meaningful conversation of, I haven't heard you say something fun in a while, or let's talk about different types of things that are more in line with mental health and well-being, and generate that conversation in a normalized way. But the thing is, the bottom line is, unless someone is going to tell you that they want to get help, then you're very limited to what you can do. And it's not an answer that people like, but it's the truth.
Did you see any rise in people reaching out to you during COVID?
One of the greatest advantages of COVID-19, it's really put mental health into the spotlight, and people are talking about it now, you know, because they kind of run out of all the other things to say, you know, and they're stressed out and they're overwhelmed, and they're much more likely to disclose that they're not feeling so well. So it's generated excellent discourse, and what people are realizing is they're not the only ones that are not okay.
Yeah, people often feared confidentiality. They worry about things, you know, their employment and things like that. Could you tell me a little bit about that, the confidentiality behind, you know, with doctors and mental health and jobs? Is that connected in any way?
With the time that I've been involved with Darkness into Light, we've never had that issue. When somebody reaches out to us, it's a confidential service, and you know, even though we are a community initiative, we follow international best practice. You know, we want what's best for that person who's reached out. So whatever they share with us, we follow standard confidentiality practice.
Yeah, how are you helping? Is it like counseling sessions, talking, and, you know, being, or are you also going into medication and these things?
Yeah, like, there's nothing that we don't do. Like, it's just amazing. So there are your regular one-to-one counseling sessions, and they're facilitated by a mental health professional. Then we have support groups. So a couple of examples of support groups we have for parents who are worried about the mental health of their children. We have a partnership with Heroes of Hope in Dubai, and that's a support group for parents of children of determination. We have a support group for bereavement and loss of suicide. So there's some of the support groups that the public can access. It just really comes down to when somebody identifies what they want. You know, it may be that want support. It may be that they want to reach out for a resource or a signpost somewhere. We also have a website now, www.thil.ie, and that has loads of self-care resources, and again, external providers from a variety of models and mythologies. So yeah, the thing is, if somebody really wants to get help or explore getting well, then we can definitely be that first point to call.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Well, that was very inspiring, your whole story. And honestly, I think a lot of people will find this very useful. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much again, Laura.
Thanks, everybody. And
thank you for the great work that you're doing for the community.
You too.
Thanks, everybody. And have a good weekend and good night.